Welcome to another episode of 50 Shades of Over 50. And my guest today is Denise Pines. I am so excited to speak with her and, get all the knowledge she has about menopause. So you really want to pay attention to this. Get your cup of coffee or your beverage and sit down and relax. Welcome, Denise.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, first question, I always ask my guests, how old are you?
I am 56 years old.
Yay!
Yay!
So tell me, why did you decide to actually focus on menopause?
Well, you know what? It always, I tell people it started with a hot flash. And from there, it led to me starting a company called Tea Botanics. I was having actually severe hot flashes. And what I mean by that is I was having hot flashes every hour and through the night, right? And so my first impulse is always to look at, natural remedy solutions. And so I wanted to see if we could treat it like that. And I tell you, I was really caught off guard. I'm a runner. I do triathlons. I eat pretty well. My mom didn't have hot flashes. So to be honest, it just wasn't even on my radar that this could happen to me. But then when it did, I realized I was like so many women, like blindsided by menopause and needing information and us Googling to death trying to find it and not really sure was it speaking to us, right?
Yeah.
And even your own doctor not having, information or even treatment options, right? I find that a lot.
Yeah.
So, kind of as that natural remedy seeker, I went to my functional doctor. He told me about this tea, right? And I ended up taking it. It ended up working, right? In a very short period of time. And, this led me to sort of talking to women across the country and starting to bring knowledge and education to them in something called like WisePause that we ended up creating.
Wow. I know women are listening are like, can I get that tea? Like, I need that now. So
Yes.
Don't worry. It's going to be in the show notes. We're going to put it all in there.
Perfect.
Because I think like you, most women are looking for natural options first. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes you might have to go the other route. But most times, most women want to try at least the natural remedies first. And when those don't work, then they'll seek other options.
Exactly. Yes, I totally agree that I think in this time frame for women that, looking at definitely working with your doctor, if you have a doctor that actually has aging patients and really does understand menopause. If they don't really understand menopause, you're going to find yourself a little bit frustrated. And yes, there are times where women do need to take hormones. They do need to take hormone therapy treatment. They do need to take or bioidenticals. And they really need to be working with a physician to actually do that. There are some things that natural remedies are not going to solve for them.
Yeah. But I like what you said, and I hope the people viewing this are listening. Find a doctor that understands menopause. Not all doctors understand that.
No, they don't. I mean, I talk to doctors all the time, right? I'm in regulatory health. So I'm talking to doctors all the time. I ask them like, hey, not trying to intimidate them or anything, because I am in regulatory health, they are intimidated by my presence. And I just will ask them, like, hey, you got older patients, like you have a woman that comes with, kind of menopause symptoms like hot flashes, what do you do? And some say, well, I tell her like, it's only going to be like, a few years.
Can I just say that when they start with, it's not going well.
It's not right. When they start with well, it's not going well. Right. You are so right. No, I think I'm going to steal that because that is
because they're pausing.
True.
They're trying to think of what to say. Like, and then the next thing, like you said, is, maybe after a while it would get better. No one wants to hear that.
Or if they immediately start to prescribe, like a low estrogen without running a hormone panel to see, is it an estrogen problem? It could be a progesterone problem. It could be a testosterone problem, right? I mean, we have
True.
11 hormones in our body.
Yes.
Those three I just mentioned are the reproductive hormones, but there
Yes.
are other hormones that actually can impact, a woman during this time. It could be your thyroid, right? It
Yes.
could,
True.
so there's a number of, it could be cortisol. So there's a
Yeah.
number of
True.
things that it can in fact be.
Yeah.
But someone is immediately go like, okay, here's the prescription for some estrogen, like, no,
No.
run out the door.
Yeah. And I think as women, we need to empower ourselves. And that brings me to my next question. So, what do we need to know most about our hormones?
I think first people need to know the terms, right? So premature menopause means it occurs before the age of 40, and that happens to about 1% of women. And if it happens in your 20s, right, your 20s or your early 30s, it definitely is a hormonal imbalance. And doc, you really do need to see a good doctor to help you to put your hormones back in balance. Okay.
Yeah.
So then there's the, perimenopause, and that term means the years leading up to menopause, where symptoms like hot flashes and night sweats and mood swings and sleeplessness and low energy, low sex drive, thinning hair, and bloating begins.
Yes.
And not everyone is going to experience all of those symptoms, but you are definitely going to have one minimum to maybe three, right? And we know there are 61 documented symptoms, and 80% of women are going to experience the most common symptom, which is hot flashes. And then menopause. Now, menopause simply means you've gone 12 consecutive months without a period, and on the month 13, you are officially in menopause. And the average age of that is 51 years old, right? And then post-menopause just simply reflects that you're in these years, 13 months, I would say 13 months later, you're in a post-menopause, right? Time frame.
Yeah.
And so those are the terms: mature menopause, under 40, perimenopause between 40 and 51, menopause hits around 52-ish, right? And then you're post-menopause.
Yeah. And it's also good to remember also that some of these are just averages. Some people go, experience it earlier or later.
Yes.
So
yes, you and I are Black women. So as women of color, there are factual data showing that Black women have more severe and a longer time inside that perimenopause time, right? Native American women tend to be the ones to experience menopause the earliest. So their signs show up on average around the age of 42. And so, yes. Asian women actually experience menopausal symptoms the least. In part, that is if you eat a traditional diet that is sea vegetables. And a lot of Asian diets have sea vegetables. And as a result, there's lots of iodine. So they have a lot of iodine in their system, and the iodine helps to balance their thyroid. So they don't have a lot of hormonal, fluctuations as they go into this space. Now, the more Americanized their diet becomes, then they are like the rest of us.
The rest, right. True. So tell us about some of the biggest misconceptions. And while we're talking about this, I'm actually having a hot flash. I'm just going to use my fan to fan myself.
I love it. I mean, because this is like keeping it real. This is like what really happens to us, right?
This is what happens. I have this, my handy fan is always close by me because I'm like, it can happen at any moment.
Any point in time. So to me, the biggest misconception is this notion that life ends. Like, oh my God, I'm in menopause. My whole world is ending, right? And, when you hear this word, it tends to mean old, less desirable, and doesn't want to have sex. And who wants to associate with that? No one wants to associate with that.
No.
When you hear you even have menopausal symptoms, or someone says you're perimenopause, women just go, no, especially if I'm in my 40s, I'm like, oh, no, right? And so they resist when they do that, they're resisting the assistance that can start to help them, right?
True.
And also, perimenopause takes place during a time where women are still having their periods. And
Yeah.
so, because it kind of sneaks up on you, right, it leads to confusion of what is really going on, right? You don't
True.
even know, like, your
Yeah.
fluctuating periods are, is your transition going into menopause, until maybe you've gone like maybe 6 months straight and you're like, oh, what is this? Okay, maybe
Mm,
this is menopause, or you talk to your doctor and the doctor says, oh, yep, you're in that stage,
yeah.
right? So a lot of women suffer, unnecessarily because they don't know the symptoms in their
Yeah.
40s,
Yeah.
and they don't want to relate to the word menopause. If I
Yeah.
could change the word menopause, I would, right? I really am looking at trying to change the word perimenopause,
Yeah.
because women in their 40s will not connect with that
They don't
word. They
want to.
will
Nope.
not embrace that
Yeah.
word.
No.
And we need a new word so that they will embrace the things that we
Yeah.
want to talk to them about.
Yeah. And I like that, the idea of talking more, because I'm telling
Yeah.
you, we need to have more discussions about menopause. People are just like, you talk about, it's like quiet.
Quiet,
I
crickets.
experience, it's like, no, 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 that's not me. I'm like, really? Like, we're all going through this. And I tell women, listen,
Yeah.
if you live long enough, you're going to experience menopause in some form,
Yeah.
you know, if you
Yeah.
live long enough. And if you don't, then you won't experience it. But think about the
Yeah.
odds of that is you're not here, right?
Yeah. And that's kind of like the history of menopause, kind of as we get into this sort of modern century that we're living
Yeah,
in. 100 years ago, on average, people live to be 48. So
true.
a lot of times, women die before they hit menopause. And so, and if they survived that age range and they got to be older women, they actually were considered to be wise, and they were viewed
Yes.
actually in a positive light,
Yes.
and then what happens, like sometime in the 60s, when more and more women started to have these like rush of symptoms, and that really came because, we started having more toxins in the environment. We
Environment.
started having,
Yes.
right? We started having the, different kinds of foods. That was kind of the
Yeah,
beginning
I
of
agree.
foods having chemicals in them,
Within them. Yeah. Yeah.
right? And so a lot of women started running to their doctor with these symptoms, and doctors were like, it's in your head, you're crazy. And then
Mhm.
finally, the pharmaceutical industries was like, this all seems to be, the women who are saying this all seem to be of a certain age.
Age.
It's hormones. And then that's when hormone replacement therapy drugs
Mhm.
kind of came out onto the market,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But in the past, how they used to deal with women who did get into the hormonal time frame? They would give them human urine from both a man or a woman who was a virgin. They would have them drink that because they believed that there was hormones in that urine, and that if you took that urine hormone in, that your hormones would get stimulated. Now, urine is a waste. So no, there wasn't any
Any
hormones
hormones in there
in
anymore.
that.
Oh,
But today, hormone therapy treatment actually comes from, it's the urine extract from horses.
yes, that's what I heard. I heard about
Yeah.
that.
So it's
Mhm.
not any better. We're putting an
Yeah.
animal hormone
Yeah.
into our body. Seriously?
And I think the other thing too is, and I've been doing some research on this, and you probably are aware of this also. I just think it's so unfortunate when it comes to women's issues, there's not enough testing done. I remember reading about some of the, like, even when they do drug testing, they're not
Yeah.
testing on women, they're testing on men.
Yeah.
And I remember reading this article about, and I can't remember the name of the sleeping tablet, but it was a popular sleeping tablet.
Okay.
And they found out that women would pass out or would really be drowsy after taking it, because at the time, the dosage for men and women were the same. But they didn't test on women. They only tested on men. But finally, they were like, what's going on with the women? Like, some were even having accidents when they were dry, because even when they slept and woke up, it was still in their system. And they found
Yeah.
that women metabolize it very differently from men, but they never did
Yes.
testing on the women.
No.
And that happens even till today. There are lots of drugs out here on the market that are tested mainly on men. And
Yes.
it's just unfortunate. It's like,
Well,
why?
yeah, the way the pharmaceutical companies look at women is they look at them as small men. right? We are not small men.
No.
Men cannot birth children.
No.
Men do not have, even though they do have the hormones that we have, right? They have them in smaller amounts.
Yeah.
But they do not, there is just, we have a whole, like we are not, women are not recognized for the human body in which we are. And we see that playing out in everything. It plays out in everything. It plays out in work. It plays out in politics, right?
Yeah.
And so when even pharma, we represent 51% of the population globally, domestically,
True.
And yet only 5% or less actually, of pharma spending and research is on anything related to women's health.
Yeah.
It's almost unimaginable.
It is.
We don't care about women. Right? We don't care. It's almost like they think like we're manufactured. We're easily to be manufactured. Yeah. So we're not important, but men, they're so special. We got to make sure we got stuff for them. Right?
It's true. It's
and I'm like
crazy.
The population can't even grow without women.
Without us. And that's why, and that's exactly the way I look at menopause. I really believe that if menopause was something that affected men, oh my goodness, we would have all kinds of solutions, all kinds of things. I mean, even the support in the workplace and all of that would have so much of that. We have nothing.
Nothing. I mean, there's not even, get this, the NIH, which does all the research, does not even have a code for menopause.
Wow.
When you go to the doctor and you go in with menopausal symptoms, in the electronic records, there is no code for menopause.
So like ICD-10, nothing, no codes.
Yes. What they're going to do is figure out, like they'll go, okay, you came in, you had heart palpitations, your heart rate was elevated, or your sugar levels was high. Okay, pre-diabetes. They're going to classify it like this
based on the symptoms,
right? And so this is why we don't have data on this. This is why I can tell you factually that Black women suffer the longest and more severe, but we don't know why. Why don't we know why? We should know why.
And that's another thing you brought up that I like. When I was reading the research about the testing, that even when they do decide they're going to test on women, guess who they test on? White women. Yes. So we don't get it. So like you're saying, they have no data for us.
Exactly. So like, that's one of the reasons why I created WisePause, right? I created WisePause because first, women were suffering in silence and still do too much. You already talked about like just how we're not talking about it enough. And when you do say something to someone, they look like cross-eyed or, I was talking to a friend of mine and she's like, Denise, and she looked absolutely amazing. I didn't know she was about to be 50. She's like, I'm about to be 50. And she said, but I'm not menopause yet. And I said,
she's like, okay, I'm getting there, but listen, don't label me in that kind. I'm not in that.
That's what I told her. I said, look, honey, when I was 50, I wasn't menopause either. But when I was 51, I was. It was like night and day. I said it was like, oh my God, what? So women are scouring the internet.
Yeah, they are.
Like trying to find answers to the brain fog issues or the unwanted pounds or I'm hot in the day, I'm hot at night, and so I just wanted to sort of create a space that one, they felt safe, that they were going to get a lot of their answers answered from people who were menopause or midlife experts. It's definitely for, women. And I make sure that they don't just get that from one perspective, because when you look at the numerous content that comes out around this issue around menopause, it is kind of one voice, and that's a white woman's voice, right?
One-dimensional,
So, and that's the reason why when we do WisePause, you see Black doctors, Latina doctors, Indian doctors,
wow, that's American amazing.
Doctors, Asian doctors, because guess what? That's what represents society.
Exactly.
And people connect to their different folks.
Oh, they do. They
right?
do.
And so, and also you'll find that they bring a different conversation because their patients are different. And they know these nuances about their patients, right?
Yeah.
So, so that kind of thing is really important to me.
Wow. When do you, so is this like, do you have conferences with WisePause? How do people get to know
Yes.
about it?
So right now we do virtual conferences. People can go to wisepause.com, WISPAUSE.com. Our online events are free. We're looking at hosting an in-person event in September in Los Angeles.
Nice.
So really excited about WisePause. If you are hearing this and you're like, oh, I want to go to a doctor, go to our resources section, and we list a ton of doctors that are in, all over the country. A lot of them work remotely now. Once COVID happened, we all now do telehealth. People have embraced telehealth. So now a lot of these doctors can do testing for you and work with you. You can be in Atlanta and you can have the doctor in LA.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Love it. So tell me about the Fem Aging Project. What's that all about?
So Fem Aging came out of me reading articles about femtech, right?
Okay.
I was reading these articles about femtech, and one day I just got really frustrated and said to myself, where are the Fem Aging solutions? Where are the solutions for women who are 40 plus? And I just happened to have a conversation with a guy friend of mine who's an e-health expert. And he said, Denise, do a report, and I was like, I've done white papers, but I haven't really done a report. And so we fast forward, we did this research, right? We worked with a third-party firm, did this research to unveil what is it that these women want, right? What kind of solutions are you going to make solutions for them? And to provide a roadmap to the innovators, to provide, information to investors to see that this is a viable market and how large the market is. And most importantly, women at this stage in their life are the most influential. They have the most money and most disposable money, and that they are a desired target, right? And to bring that to light, not the 18-year-olds, they're using these women's money to get whatever it is that they want to do. They're not the ultimate decision makers, right? Because if I tell you I'm not buying that car, I'm not buying that car for you, right?
True.
So like we don't recognize this woman.
They
I call
don't.
her the superpower, right?
They don't.
This is the superpower woman.
Right.
So we created that, and we released this report. It did, it was really, garnished in the industry. And then I said, let's have a discussion and talk about these things. So I bring together healthcare experts, like the president of the Menopause Society. I'll bring together investors, and I'll bring the innovators to talk about, their innovations, what it's like to have agile innovations. It's like amazing conversation. We have this conversation in an hour. And then I partner with Keiretsu here in Los Angeles, and we do pitch competitions. Oh, right. So we're trying to spur more innovation for women 40 plus and health.
Oh my goodness. I'm like loving this conversation because I am constantly having conversations with women saying, why are these brands not marketing to us? Like, seriously, we have the money, we have the need. They just, just ignore us completely. I'm like, what is going on? Oh my God.
It's mind boggling. I don't get it. Now, yeah, definitely. We are not changing our cell phone every time the new cell phone come out. That's not what we do. We're going to change this cell phone in 2 years when you start decreasing my battery. Yeah, I'm going to go get a new cell phone.
Thank you. And that's what I do too.
When you come out with, iPhone 10, 12, 11, 13, I'm not running out to get that.
So we're not waiting in line for that now.
We're not that kind of buyers, but there's all kinds. We are changing our hair products. We are changing our face products because our face are, our skin gets dry.
We're traveling. They don't market to us.
We travel. Oh my God, do we travel?
They've ignored us. They've ignored that part. And that's huge for us.
We're buying clothes. We're buying clothes a lot because our body shape has changed, right? So there's a lot of things we are spending like crazy money on, right? Yep.
Yeah.
We're trying new foods.
Yeah. So it's interesting, but I'm so excited about hearing this because we need this. This is what's going to change. And I think women our age need to hear this because that makes us
Yes.
feel relevant. Because right now, a lot of them don't. They feel invisible. A lot of
They
women,
feel,
50,
yep,
they feel invisible. So
yep,
this,
yep,
these types of conversations, oh my goodness,
yep.
it's going to
They
move them.
absolutely is. So I'm glad you used that word because, you're right. They do feel invisible and we're made to feel invisible, right? You rarely see older women in ads, right?
None, unless it's pharmaceutical.
Right.
That's it. Seriously, I did the research. That's it. I'm like,
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Right. And then even in imagery, when you look at imagery and they're representing sort of the menopausal woman, it's like the old white lady with gray hair. Excuse me, none of my friends look like that. Right. I mean, and even my white girlfriends, we
I
don't look
know.
like that. Represent what the women look like. They look
Yes.
like me. They look like
Yes.
you, right?
Yes.
They look like your friends. They look like my friends.
Yes.
Stop
Oh,
with that crazy imagery. That's sort of the other thing that drives me bananas with
yeah.
this.
Yeah. Because I did some research on that too. And when I did like when you do a Google research,
Uh-huh.
just type in midlife.
Uh-huh.
The next thing that comes up is crisis. And then look at the images, just
Uh-huh.
anything for midlife.
Uh-huh.
Just like what you said.
Yeah.
Old white
Yeah.
women looking very frumpy. I'm like, come on. And then
Yes.
guess what? For the men, oh my, different story though. The
Oh my
man
God.
looking all dapper, like George
Dapper,
Clooney-esque.
right. Suave.
I'm like, and then standing, I'm like, and when they put us, we're pitched, we're like bending over. I'm like, seriously, like you can do better. That's not us. We
Right.
have changed. We have
Right.
changed.
Women deserve better.
We do.
We deserve better.
Yes.
Right. We are the backbone of everything,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
When women are strong, the society is strong, the community is strong,
True.
right? The
Yes.
man is strong, the children are strong,
Yes.
right? But they don't do anything to support us. It's like we girls, we support each other,
Yeah.
right? But the
Yeah.
rest just doesn't support each other.
Yeah. And so I'm glad we're having this conversation because like things that you're doing, that is going to move the needle. Like, but we have to do it for, I keep telling women, listen, if you're waiting for someone to save, you're going to wait for a long time. We need to save ourselves. And
We
through
have to save
conversations like
ourselves.
this, that's how we can do it, that we can make the change.
We have to save ourselves.
We do.
There's something that I'm doing. I'm looking to do a piece of research where we're surveying doctors on the knowledge gap that they have in managing and treating women 40 plus.
Wow.
And so that we can release that data and not to cast aspersion on doctors, but to say we have a problem, a current problem that women are going to see physicians that do not know how to help them.
Yeah.
So then we can come with the corrective measures. Once we reveal, everything is about the data. Once you reveal what is really happening, then you can say, well, how do we remedy this, right? And so making it mandatory that OBGYNs, because they're culprits too, family practice doctors that most women go to, what
probably
else?
Internal medicine, probably internal medicine.
Internal
internists,
and endocrinologists, right? That they all have to take a CME, so a mandatory, training class on menopause. That's the goal that I'm getting to. And so once I do the survey, I'm then going to do a big media splash. And then I've already talked to several congressional people to put bills forward.
Wow.
I'm not joking.
I love this. I'm
not joking.
I'm so excited. I'm so
like
excited.
on a 10-year path of like, this is going to change. This is ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. And this puts, and the other thing about all of this is this, all these things we're doing now, guess who we're helping? The younger generation.
Yes. Well, get this. I mean, the oldest millennial right now is 41 years old. Guess what that is? Perimenopause.
Perimenopause. Yep.
Right? They're there. Millennials have arrived into this space. Oh. And that's the only thing that I find captures people's attention when I say that, right? That captures their attention when I talk about, in the US, only 5% of physicians are OBGYN. 5%. And of that
Wow.
5%, 75% predominantly focus on child rearing women. So now we're left with 25% who have any focus on women older.
Wow.
So that's how small this is. And it means that there are a lot of people aren't going to go to an OBGYN. A lot of women are going to go to their family, practice or their general practice
Yeah.
physician. And so that's the reason why they have to get trained.
Wow, I love this. This is huge. It's gonna make such a big difference because I'm telling you, with my coaching clients, I have a few that say, they feel helpless. They
Yeah.
feel they have, and sometimes they say things like, well, maybe you're depressed, and they come up with all these different things, and they know deep down that they're not. They just need a solution because they have these symptoms, and sometimes it's so debilitating that they affect their daily life.
Yes. Oh,
And when
yeah.
you,
Oh, completely. I talk to some of the most powerful women. And when I get on this subject, they could be like this like on a Zoom, and they're like
yeah,
this, and we're talking about something. And then I'll talk about the menopause stuff, and they'll start telling me, the hot flashes and da. And suddenly they're like this,
it
right? The
changes their whole demeanor.
self-esteem on this topic goes
Yes,
like that,
yes,
right? Powerful,
yeah,
powerful women. It's
yes,
mind-boggling,
yes,
mind-boggling.
yeah. So I'm just so thankful, that you're doing this
Thank
because
you.
this work needs to get out there. We need to do more of this. This needs to be out there and changes need to be made. So before we go,
Okay.
I have one more question for you. So what is it that you want to tell women? Like, what is one thing you kind of want to leave with them?
So a couple things. The first one is get a baseline hormone test. Moms, get your 20-year-old, your daughters in their 20s to get a base hormone test so that they can every 5 years get that test and see what is happening to their hormones, right? So if they want to have children and they see that, they had a hormone test, say at 21, 5 years later at 26, they've had a drastic drop, then it may mean you have to start having your children if you want to have children. You may not be able to say, I'm not going to have my kid until like I'm 33 or 35, right? That might not be it. You don't want to find yourself, in that, fertility, hub, right? Because that's really difficult. So that's really important. And really you need to get, a blood test is fine, but really something called a Dutch test where you're actually measuring yourself over 30 days. Because a blood test really focuses on a point in time. And it's the time you went in to get that blood test. And it could mean that on my way there, I almost got into a car accident. So when I arrive, my blood pressure is high, but I don't really have high blood pressure, right? So, you kind of want to see like an over the time period. And the last thing I would say is women, look, you go to your doctor, and like we've said, if they don't, if they say, grind it out, oh, it's only going to be a couple years, or you're 44 or 47, they say, oh, you're too young to be having menopause, run from the doctor. Go to WisePause, find you someone who totally understands and is going to listen to what you're saying, and they are going to help you. You are not too young. If you're between 40 and 50 years old, you are in the perimenopause stage. It doesn't necessarily mean you have symptoms, but if you do have symptoms, that is what this is. Yeah. And you do not want to be struggling. And that kind of doctor does not have strategies for you.
No, you don't want. And I love what you said. If you're in that age, you just never know. Because for me, for instance, I hit menopause at 43.
Wow. Okay.
And I started having the symptoms. No one knew what was going on. It's kind of similar. They're like, but finally someone figured it out, but they kept saying no. And mine exhibited with adult acne. Growing up as a teenager, I never had acne. So I was like, what is going on? And in my face, I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, not my face.
Right, not my face. Yes, adult acne. That's a big thing.
Oh my goodness. I had no idea. I was like,
that's a big thing.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. And I would probably say the other thing that I would want to share with women is, a lot of this we can get under control. We can get under control with it by, doing massages, right? So massages help to rebalance our body. It helps to put the natural rhythms of our body back into place. Doing herbal, we all need to be taking some kind of supplement. The earth is just no longer rich in nutrients. And so even eating organic and whatever, you still are going to have to supplement, or you're going to have to eat a ton of fruits and vegetables. You really can't really eat a ton of fruits and vegetables, right? And so, at this stage, I definitely, of course, recommend hot flash tea, my little product.
Of course.
And you can just go Google, hotflashtea.com.
And we're gonna put the link anyway. So
okay, perfect. So magnesium rich food. So as we get older, we need more nutrients in our bodies because our bodies doesn't absorb as much nutrients. So if you are living off of carbs and sugar, you are literally putting no nutrients in your body at a time when it needs the most nutrients. And so what you'll find when you hit 65 is now you've got cardiac issues. You got maybe gout issues, or you've got blood pressure issues. You got things like that because you didn't realize that, you weren't putting nutrients really into your body. And that deficit started creating chronic disease. So magnesium rich foods, which is like almonds, spinach, bananas, avocado, vitamin E is really enriching. That's nuts, seeds, green leafy vegetables, and then water soluble B vitamins. And you find that in black beans, lima beans, even Brussels sprouts, pears, and sweet potatoes.
Wow.
And then doing either yoga or tantra yoga. So if you're having tantra yoga is known to create blood flow in the vagina. And as we get older, the vagina does get dry. It's kind of that saying, if you don't use it, you're going to lose it.
Yep.
And then exercise, right? So the lack of estrogen may cause the body to use starches and sugar less effectively. And that is what starts to create the fat storage around this area that we all cannot stand.
Yeah.
And doing weightlifting, right?
Yes.
That, cardio, of course, but weightlifting is really, really important for women.
It is.
So those would be my last tips.
Thank you. And I love how you talked about the food. I like to tell women, in your 30s, even early 40s, you can kind of get away with eating whatever. Not that that's real, you really want to do that. But at this point, you really need to focus on what you're eating, putting in your body. It's like there are no second chances anymore. Your body is no longer forgiving. And this is a time where we're more susceptible to diseases. Now, you don't have to you don't have to experience them, but I know that with the food, we can actually push them away for much longer. So the food thing, thank you for bringing that up.
I'm so glad you said that. You are so right on. You could kind of jack up in 20s and 30s, doing whatever.
Yeah.
But once you start hitting 40, when I hit 40, I started just drinking water. Yeah. I stopped drinking juices. I never was a soda person, but I love me some juices.
Yeah.
And I just let water become the only thing, tea. I don't drink coffee, but tea.
Yeah.
I do have my occasional alcohol.
Yeah.
But that's really it. And then when I turned 50, I said, okay, I've got to have, vegetables, fruits and vegetables every day, and just made it a conscious effort to just even explore. I started off exploring and going, I never really would get that fruit. I never really eat kiwi. And then I said, let me just get the kiwi, try the kiwi. So I started making it fun to try it. Some things I liked, some things I didn't like, right? Yeah. And the same thing with vegetables. So I really tried to say I gotta put more of these into my body, right? And so I've got even my time frame, and then at night is kind of my regular whatever I want to eat dinner. But my lunch is definitely a full-on salad with a lot of mixed vegetables. Yeah. And we just, so we, look at your, think of yourself okay, what's my thing for the decade?
Yes. I like to tell my clients, what do you want your future self to look like? Like, think about that.
Yeah.
And I like also too, with the food, let us actually be conscious, because sometimes we even feel it, like our bodies talk to us. Like, for instance, I can't drink alcohol anymore. When I drink alcohol, my symptoms, menopause symptoms, like 10x. And so, but our bodies talk to us. So, maybe even that dairy that you normally used to have before, now you have it, you feel kind of like bloated. Pay attention to that, because that's your body telling you that no longer works for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, this was so much fun. I could keep on talking, but we need to go. Thank you, ladies. So I'm going to put all the information in the show notes, so you can find out about WisePause. You can find out about her tea, which I'm going to also purchase, and all the other information that you can find about her. Thank you, Denise. This was amazing. I had such a great conversation with you.
Me too.
Thank you so much.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. If you enjoyed listening to the show, you have to take a look at Flourish, my monthly online community for women in their 50s and beyond. We talk about the important issues affecting women in their 50s and over, and provide tools and resources to help you live your best life. Join me by clicking the link Flourish Online Community in the About Me section below. I'd love to have you join me. See you there.